Hey friends, welcome back to Farmhouse Harvest and to my channel. Today I'm just going to share with you some simple meals and treats that we've been making around the farmhouse. This first one is super interesting. I saw something like it online and I decided to try it. But it's basically a carrot and cabbage soup. I am adding onion just for some flavor. And then you cook it in a chicken bone broth. And I am also adding some buffalo chicken. I cooked up a whole bunch of chicken breast in my crock pot with some yummy seasonings and that shredded that up. So I have some of that in the freezer that I'm going to be adding to it just for some more protein. But it's super simple. I'm just chopping up one onion and I'm going to put that in my Dutch oven with some butter and saute it till it's opaque or till it's just softened. And then I am going to chop up my carrots and my cabbage in my food processors just so that it's nice and small bites of carrots and cabbage. And I am just going to cook that over low heat with some chicken bone broth. I have had this chicken bone broth simmering on my stove for a couple of weeks. I finally got it into some mason jars and put it in the refrigerator. I was going to can it in my pressure canner, but I have probably got about 5 quarts of it in the refrigerator. And I thought, it's wintertime and I love using bone broth. I love making soups. And so I am just going to use that as one of my ingredients. I am using a full quart of bone broth for this soup. And honestly, to tell you the truth, it isn't the most beautiful, but it is delicious. And if you think about the flavors of cabbage, carrot, onion, and chicken broth, it is really good, a really good flavor together. So I am salting it. I'll add salt and pepper and then just let this simmer until everything is nice and soft. And I served this with some buffalo sauce and a little bit of ranch dressing and then chopped green onions for some fresh finish on it. That was super good. To go with it, I did do a loaf of sourdough bread. I am using a lot of einkorn right now. It isn't the best for making sourdough bread just because your bread doesn't rise as well. So I am experimenting this time using half einkorn flour and half bread flour, and it really turns out really well. It does give it a nice rise. To use that bread flour gives it a nice rise. So this is my same day sourdough bread recipe that's on the blog at farmhouseharvest.net. You can just go there and click on sourdough and you'll find this recipe, but it takes about 9 hours to make. And I put it in the refrigerator and just let it chill for a couple hours before I score it. That just helps the dough to firm up a little bit before I score it. And then I will bake this, and this will be delicious with this chicken, carrot, and cabbage soup. This is a really fun recipe. So this is an einkorn sourdough chocolate chip cookie, and it is delicious. So I have a very popular recipe. I call it the best chocolate chip cookie recipe in the world. It's actually oatmeal chocolate chip. And so I experimented with it. I will be putting this recipe on the blog at farmhouseharvest.net, but it is the einkorn flour. You can't even tell that these cookies are made with einkorn flour. They just cook up so perfectly. You bake them for 10 to 12 minutes. And honestly, I like to take them out when they're poofed up on top. And a lot of people would probably think they're not done yet. But honestly, when they cool, they're nice and firm. They firm up really well. But when you take them out after 10 minutes, they don't get dried out and they're not overcooked. So really, it's perfect. These are perfectly done. I'm trying to use a lot more whole wheat and einkorn flour in the recipes I use around the house. just for added nutrition for the family and so that we're not all getting that sugar rush that we get from white flour products. But these were such a big hit. This whole platter was gone by the next day, and we even shared some with the neighbors. They are definitely one that you want to try. So this is the oatmeal chocolate chip cookie recipe on the blog at farmhouseharvest.net. And I just substituted out einkorn flour for white flour, plus added another half cup of the einkorn flour because it just acts a little bit different than all-purpose flour. And I also used a half a cup of sourdough starter and soured the dough. Besides that, it's the same recipe. Definitely delicious, and we will be making this again. I'm just going to show you how soft these are when you take them out, and you think they might not be done all the way, but they really are after 10 minutes, and they're super soft. So definitely recommend not cooking them longer than that. I would go max 11 minutes, but I wouldn't go any longer than that when you're doing a 1-inch cookie ball. One of the best things to make in the wintertime when it's cold outside are soups. I really love the potato and sausage kale soup. If you go to Olive Garden, it's zuppa toscana. You can make it at home. It's super simple. Today I'm using Italian sausage links, and so I'm just chopping these up, and then I'll put them in the pot with the potatoes and the broth and add some cream and some chopped kale to it. And this is a delicious recipe that's super simple and easy to make and tastes just like what you get at Olive Garden, except for better because you add more sausage and that always makes it better. So this will be dinner this night, and I am just going to serve it with some sourdough bread, of course, but I do like to add kale to this. Right before I serve it, I add the cream and the kale because I don't like to overcook the kale. I like it to still be bright green and fresh inside the soup. Okay, here's another delicious recipe. These are sourdough lemon sugar cookies. And I'm just making this recipe. It's on farmhouseharvest.net. I will link it below. But it's just a simple sugar cookie. I do add lemon zest to it. When you're zesting the lemon, I just turn it every time I grate it so that I'm not grating too far down into the lemon. The yellow part is bitter. The yellow part is lemony, but the white part underneath it is bitter. So you don't want to get any of that if you don't have to. I'm also using some food grade lemon essential oil in the cookie and in the icing. So this is the cookie dough I'm putting into the KitchenAid. I've got my lemon zest in there, and I'm adding about 10 drops of the food grade lemon essential oil. You could also use a lemon extract, but the lemon extracts, they're not usually pure. They're usually imitation, at least the ones that I can find at the grocery store locally. But this food grade lemon essential oil is so strong and so fragrant and makes these cookies and the icing extra good. This is another recipe that got gobbled up right away. Everybody seems to love a good sourdough cookie. I did make this one with all-purpose flour. You could make it with einkorn flour. But anything that is you're not rising like a yeast bread is good with einkorn flour. But I am going to get this sugar cookie dough into the refrigerator and let it sour. I think I left this in there for at least 2 days in the refrigerator. You can leave it for longer, up to 3 days if you like. But I just put this in the refrigerator for a couple days and then pulled it out and cut it into some bell shapes and some snowman shapes for my kids and my family. When you put a sourdough bread or cookie into the refrigerator, you are slowing the fermentation down a lot because the temperature is so cold. It just really retards the fermentation, but it continues to ferment at a much slower pace, and so it develops a really delicious flavor and then sours all that flour so that it's easier on your digestion. Now I'm making the icing for these cookies. So it is the juice of 1 lemon, the zest of 1 lemon, and then about 2 cups of powdered sugar. And then I'm also going to add a few drops of that food grade lemon essential oil. So this is a very tart icing, and it's like just a simple sugar cookie icing. It's very flowy, but it dries nice and hard so that you can actually stack them if you like to, but you've got to wait for it to dry. Probably about 30 minutes, not too bad. You don't need a beater or any electric mixer or any special tools to make this. I'm just obviously doing it in a little bowl, but you just stir that powdered sugar into that lemon juice until it all gets wet and it just kind of melts into a glaze. And the lemon zest makes it really beautiful because it gives it a wonderful lemon flavor, but it also, you can see the little pieces of lemon in it, and it just makes it really beautiful and really fresh. My family is playing outside while I'm making these cookies, so I am doing it myself, but honestly, this is something that kids love to do. Give them a chunk of this dough, a rolling pin, and some cookie cutters, and then grab a few cookie sheets, line them with parchment paper, and they will spend hours. And it's like playing with Play-Doh, but it's real food, of course, and then they get to eat it and decorate it when they're done. So if you're looking for activities for the winter for your kids, definitely give this one a try. I made a batch of these, except for I made them lime and coconut sourdough sugar cookies for my son's graduation last spring. And they were so popular. They were requested by several people several times. So those are also on the blog at farmhouseharvest.net. If you just go to the sourdough category page on the menu up on top, or you can just type it into the search bar. But these are one of my most requested treat recipes, especially for those who really love sourdough. I really enjoy being in my kitchen, and it's funny because when I make food, my family is so happy. When I have something cooking, everyone is excited and looking forward to it. And when I am not, they think there's nothing to eat. Even though our pantries are full of food, our freezers are full of food, if most of what I buy is things that you have to make. I don't buy a lot of snack foods or prepared foods that you can just grab and eat. They all have to be made. And so it is just so funny to see, especially boys, how much affection and appreciation they show when you are cooking something for them to eat, because they're growing so fast, they're using their muscles, and they're hungry, and they have huge appetites. And so it really is speaking their love language when you are making food for them. Definitely one of the biggest lessons about raising children, especially boys, is just make them food and they'll be so happy and they will treat you so well. As always, thank you so much for watching my video. If you haven't subscribed, please do. I will link all of these recipes in the description box below, and we'll see you next time.